Today I walked to the Ponderosa. Those of you who are old enough might remember the television programme Bonanza, which apparently was the longest running cowboy series on the television ever. And if I remember correctly, the signature tune went dan 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 dan. Those of you who don't remember that will just have to be very, very sad that you missed it. The word Ponderosa apparently has a meaning. Apparently it's Old Spanish, and it actually means a wise woman. This has absolutely nothing to do with what I have to say, but just in case you were wondering. Okay, so what is my Ponderosa? Well, you can sort of see it from here. This is the top of Rutland Road in Sheffield. And if you look across, as we always are doing in Sheffield, to the hill opposite, you might see in the distant background a little row of tower blocks, white tower blocks. And behind them, which you can hardly make out, there are some trees. And some open space, and that is the Ponderosa. So we're going to walk down Rutland Road and stopping off at some random street furniture. And this is this part of Sheffield. They found these grey boxes, which is some sort of junction box. I'm sure someone could tell me what's inside them. And various artists have painted various designs on them. So I thought I would pause and photograph this en route to the Ponderosa. Let us not forget where we're going. The Ponderosa is actually made up of two parts. The top part of it is the rec, and that's the recreation ground. And you can see in the middle distance the green flat area where people play football and other things like that. The lower part, which is off to the left, is or was back-to-back housing until the 1960s. And when it was demolished, the story goes that children started to play there, and it was the children who named it the Ponderosa because they played cowboys and Indians. There's absolutely no evidence for this. Another rumour is that it was some manager in some department in Sheffield City Council. But at any rate, that's what the Ponderosa is. And the thing that we're actually looking at is the trees in the middle distance. And this particular group of trees on a bank to one side of the Ponderosa is significant for me because I planted them. Now, when I say that I planted them, is a close-up of some trees and some rocks. I don't mean that I planted every single one. I organised a group of people, and I was a part of that group, who planted these trees in the early 1990s, 1990, 1991. And when we put them in, they were whips, just a sort of single twig stuck in the ground, and we planted them pretty much in rows across this hillside. And it's my forest. And really the point that I want to get across is that of all the things I've done, this is possibly my legacy. I won't be remembered for it. I'm under no illusions that even now nobody remembers how much I was involved in planting this particular group of trees. But the fact remains that these are much more likely to continue into the distant future than the community organisations that I developed. And we're looking at the trees to the left, and the recreation ground that we saw is to the right. And once there were houses here, and you'll see later this wooded area is on quite a steep slope, and along the top of the slope there's Mushroom Lane, which we shall see later, And then there was two hairpin bends on this slope with houses down one side of them from top to bottom, which is really hard to believe. And the bottom of that slope came out in the distance that we can see here, and there's actually a viaduct across the valley at that point, and at one time there was a tunnel through to the park on the other side, and that tunnel was used as an air raid shelter during the Second World War, presumably for the people who lived in the houses on that street. So it's an area with much more interesting history than you might think. And you can get a better idea of the slope. And somebody's put these steps in. I don't think I was involved in putting the steps in. I certainly don't remember them. And there's enough room on that slope to put a path in and to pretend that you're in an extensive wooded area. I suppose you are. If you can pretend it, it must be real. And here we are further along that path, so we're walking now in the opposite direction to what we were earlier. And if you dig down here, and I don't recommend it, I think it's best left undisturbed, but there used to be a school across the Ponderosa. The building is still there, but the school finished 10, 15, 20 years ago. But they did a lot of digging, and they found the main things that they found were the glass bottles with a marble in the top, clay pipes, and oyster shells, because oyster was a very cheap food, so everybody ate oysters and drank pop and smoked tobacco in clay pipes, I suppose. So there's lots of interesting things going on there, and here we are a little bit further along. You get an idea, and it's interesting to see that some of the trees are already falling over, that natural cycle of living and dying. But when you think these trees are barely 30 years old, it's looking good. I don't know how long a woodland has to be in place before it's ancient forest. I'm sure it's more than 30 years, but it is a legacy, and I think it's interesting both in terms of the houses that were there, of which now there's little or no trace, and also in terms of the people who planted these trees. There's no record. There may be people around who remember, as I do, doing the planting, but all those names will be forgotten. The thing that will live on is this natural landscape. And here we are at the top now, so the path that we were originally on was right down at the bottom, and here we have Mushroom Lane at the top. So named apparently because somebody moved in there and overnight built a little house which went up like a mushroom. That's what I heard. Whether it's true, who knows? Once again, our history, our legacy is mostly highly mysterious. So, there we are, my very own wood. Thank you.